So this is its mental podcast. This week we have Brandan Hickey on our podcast. I will give the mic to him so he can introduce himself.
Hello, I'm Brandan Hickey. I'm a comedian here in Berlin for I think about 5 years. I'm originally from Ireland, the home of depression, and I, I, I guess I don't know what more is there to say about me.
Why do you say Ireland is the home of depression?
It's an inherently alcoholic culture, you know.
Mhm.
I mean, we dress it up nicely, you know. It's like it's the fun side of alcoholism, but you know, I think there's the natural connection between those two, and also it's very wet all the time, which is
I read a book. I forgot the name of the book, but it's I read like in the 70s, in Ireland there was a war and lots of chaos, and I was like, wow, this doesn't look like first world countries.
Yeah, it's a kind of a weird place because it wasn't. It was pretty much a what do you call it, third or maybe even a second world country for. Like if you go back 100 years, it was a third world country. You know, it was one of the poorest places in the world. And then we were fighting the English basically over the last 100 years. Broke free from them around 1920, but then we had to sort of rebuild our own economy, which didn't happen fast. And then, kind of in the 90s, there was this thing called the Celtic Tiger, which was like this. We became the model for suddenly getting rich. Like,
Really? How
yeah,
come?
so it's hard. I don't know if I could properly explain it. I think it was just we sort of set ourselves up as the world's best outsourcing location. You know, all the
Okay.
major companies, we gave them all tax cuts and they all rushed in. And we were sort of for terrible reasons, we're an English speaking outsourced culture, you know, so we're kind of in a way sort of the ideal workers for a lot of different industries, like so there's a huge amount of call centers and stuff for there, like.
Okay. So back to the depression part. Is it something you just joke about, or is something like in
No,
the
I
culture?
mean it is half joking. I wouldn't want to like Irish people. Jesus, he's giving us a bad name. But the more I go back, like I struggled with depression when I was younger. Still to this day, but it certainly was stronger back then. And it's sort of, the more I go back, the more I can see this extent to which we drink it's incredible. Like, as soon as I went, when I first place I moved to was Spain, and I was automatically drunk and Irish there. Just however much you drink compared to what they drink. They'll have like a copa or two. They have 2 or 3 drinks, and they're like, "Hey, we're happy." And I'm like, "Oh, this is just the start." Like, So, it's the more you go back, the more you see that there's the fun side of the drinking culture if it's kept in control, but there's you start to see the edges of it as well, like the people who've been at it for so long and how they're linked to their own mental state.
When you say go back, you mean you visit back or look back?
When I visit back.
Okay. And people there, do they know they have drinking issues?
It's they do and they don't, I suppose, and it's not like everybody drinks, or some people, or everybody drinks to excess, but there's a sort of it's kind of England and Ireland. I think there's a sort of an unspoken, and it's hard to see it until you're outside of it, if you're raised in it and it's just what you do. And it just kind of was our only drug as well. I guess it's changing a little now, but like, here in Berlin, there's a multitude of different recreational activities, like weed and anything was never really a thing in Ireland. So it was just how you got fucked out of your mind, basically. And that's kind of remained mostly.
And in family like gatherings, do among families, do they also drink a lot?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, we all drink when we get together.
Wow.
Probably too much. Definitely too much. But and you can kind of start to see the differences of the drugs, like as in alcohol. It's said that alcohol is the only one that combats anxiety. But that has a sort of a dark side, is like you get much more, you're not as, you're not controlling yourself as much more. It's much more aggressive, much more violence when you're, drinking, especially to excess. So you get a lot more arguments, basically.
Do people back home, do they understand what's alcoholism?
Sure. Yeah, they do know, but it's sort of, it's kind of talked about and not talked about. It's kind of like mental health in general in Ireland was not really a sort of a front of the, sort of spotlight issue, as in like if you had really mental health institutions in Ireland were horrendous for years. Really, there were no, you probably would be worse if you went there. And so it's sort of, it's slowly changing, but it's still, and for a long time, it would be a taboo thing to talk about, the person who is just consumed, suddenly drinking themselves to death, like,
And for an Irish person, in general, do you guys have clearly separate identity to British people?
I mean, yes and no. I suppose it's kind of fun thing. Like, definitely for us, like, we consider ourselves the opposite of the English. But for the rest of the world, there probably is no two more people similar,
Yeah,
Like,
for me, or like you are the same.
I always think, if the Chinese ever invade, they're not breaking the difference between. They're like, they're pasty, drinky people. Let's kill these two people, But I mean, culturally, we're quite similar in those senses, but obviously, because I guess it's the curious thing about neighbors is we'll almost define ourselves by how different we are from each other, even though we're actually the most similar to each other than any other group.
Yeah, actually, that's interesting. In China, we really thought, we are Chinese, we are different than Japanese, we are different than Korean, and there was lots of hatred was promoted, and then we feel, we are superior than Indian people, whatever. And then I got outside of China, I realized, we are all very similar, and we are basically same thing.
To certainly everyone else that you see is very, you're like, oh, well, we can't, So, I mean, I guess that's like the Irish and the English. It's my own personal experience of what all Asian people must get, where white people can't tell the difference between them, whereas, I'm sure, I mean, because I trained in Japan, or trained with Japanese people. I trained doing kendo a long time, and when I've interacted with those people, you do start to realize they're looking at you pretty much the same way you're looking at them. It's like, we can't tell the difference between you white motherfuckers.
Yeah. And you talk about you suffer from a depression issue since young. How young are we talking about?
When I was when I was in secondary school, I found that the transition to primary school and secondary school very hard. So that's like, for us, that's primary school is like until you're about 12, and then you go to secondary school, which is until you're 18. And I think, because I went to a very small primary school in the countryside, so it was like 30 people, so you knew like almost everyone in your school, like family. And then the secondary school was much bigger, and I just found that very hard to adjust to. And I guess I've just not a natural knack for social skills anyway, certainly not that time. So during that period, I got bullied a lot in the school as well when I was starting out, I guess, because you're the quiet, shy kid. And those combinations, I think, I used to get very bad insomnia. I used to sleep a lot.
Since secondary school?
Yeah.
Wow.
There used to be days I just walk in like I hadn't slept the night before, and it's like, I was thinking, I heard that from Fight Club. It's like when you're not really awake or not really
asleep.
It's sort of this heightened but dull reality. So that used to be strange, and and I mean, I guess I didn't. Oh, sorry, talking to the mic. I didn't develop, I suppose, the social skills or the social networks that can help you out of those depressions. I didn't have sort of a close friend group for a long time. So,
and you were like 13, 14, and you couldn't sleep. Did the school help you? Did the family help you?
No, like, as in, again, it's sort of, I guess it's a very, it's a very guy thing, but it's a very Irish thing anyway, to not really talk about your mental health problems, And I just didn't really say it to anybody, as in, I especially even now, recently, I was saying to Mom about some things that I had been dealing with, and she was very shocked because she didn't know that it was going on. And I think that is kind of a legacy of certainly Irish men in general. I mean, Irish men are kind of famous for. Irish people are very famous for putting up with lots of bad situations and just not saying anything. It's kind of our reputation. So I didn't really talk to anyone about it, and there wasn't really there was no mental health counselor in the school that you could go to. There wasn't easy access. In the next town, you'd probably have to go up to Cork or someone to one of the main cities to see someone who could deal with it.
And with the family situation, you do you have siblings?
Mm-hmm.
And do you talk about this sort of thing?
No, not really. We just weren't that kind of group. Kind of always kind of shut away in our own thing. So no, not really. No.
I'm quite shocked because what you talked is quite similar to China. I grew up there's no mental health counselor and there's not really help, and the medical resources very limited, and in family we don't talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But as a Chinese kid, I always imagine in the West, like Europe, they must have everything.
Yeah.
And then now you talk about it, I realize, it's the same.
I think it's the same for all those countries that are developing, you know, as in I think for the countries that have been wealthier for longer, you have this sort of long tradition of, like Sweden and places like that. But I think in Europe, anywhere basically that's Eastern European is going to be one of those, especially they have a very dark history with, they compare psychological help to re-education from the Soviet Union. So they have that thing going on. And then the places that are, well, Ireland's kind of a weird one. It's sort of the broke place that was left from the English Empire, but yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of legacies of poverty and I don't know, that sort of working class kind of idea of just it's tough but just shut up and deal with it kind of thing.
Yeah, poverty really creates lots of stress and trauma. And so after you had the issue first appear when you entered the secondary school, and since then, have you searched for help? Has the issue developed, or have you learned something?
I think, I mean, the way I kind of walked my way out of it was, I mean, until maybe my life got a little better in school. I got a little better at making friends and a little better at sort of creating happiness, I suppose. And then university was sort of a whole new, I can remake myself. I can be a whole new thing, I'm not tied to whatever, and then I'm more I tend to find more like-minded people in that area. And so that kind of was hey, I can try again. And so from there, but then at the start of university, my dad died as well. So it was kind of another down. So I don't know if it's hard to distinguish between grief and depression, I suppose. So that's going on for a while. And it used to come in sort of fits. Then I would sort of be fine for a while. And then suddenly depression would kick in again. In the end, I think there were two main things that I wasn't doing correctly, or I didn't have two tools that I didn't have. I think when I learned I started to do a martial art called Kendo.
What's that?
Kendo is like Japanese fencing, basically.
Okay.
And it's kind of a Buddhist style practice in a lot of ways. So it kind of has those elements. And from there...
It's a type of sports, martial arts? Okay.
Yeah. It's like if you've seen sword fighting here.
Yeah.
It's like their Japanese version of that. They use wooden sticks and stuff. And that has a sort of a meditative aspect to it, and they kind of have little meditation links and even moments where you directly meditate. And from there, I started to learn about meditation. And I think the biggest tool I have for dealing with stuff like that is that ability to sort of, when you can kind of sit there and walk your way out of it to a degree, watch what's happening in your own mind and call off the emotional dogs. I think one person put it that way. And the other thing, actually, the major thing that it made a big change was... diet.
Okay.
I read a very interesting book called Eat Complete. There was the 21 nutrients that I forget this panhandle, but 21 nutrients that are important for brain function, basically. And he kind of just gives an overview of, like, his argument, this doctor's argument was, if you're dealing with mental health issues, the first thing you should be looking at is their diet, because basically if there aren't certain nutrients being delivered to their system, then they're not going to be able to function properly. And once I kind of reorganized my diet in that way, I didn't really have the recurring depression thing anymore.
What changes you made? What you eat before and what you eat after?
I put more fish in my diet, so I eat a lot more salmon to get the omegas. I eat more spinach and eggs. Like I'd have kind of a few basic meals that I kind of loops, but a lot of omelets. And then like vitamin C, just making sure that that's getting in on a daily basis. And what are the other ones? Avocados have a lot in them as well. Avocados have a lot of fatty
avocado. And before that, were you eating junk food or were you?
Certainly when I was younger, my early days, in like my early 20s, I was eating some level of shit. I'm surprised I survived. Over time, I didn't. To a degree, I think I was eating junky food, because the weird thing with Ireland as well was we kind of, when we got rich, or richer anyway, we got all this sort of strange imported food that we didn't have before. So we've kind of been just living on potatoes and 2 vegetables and a meat. That was like that's the meal. But then pasta and stuff became a whole new thing. But we were doing it like the way the fucking Irish do everything. Like, we weren't doing fancy Italian pasta. We were just boiling massive amounts of pasta, like ready mixed pasta, and throwing fucking tomato sauce and shit on it. Like, I think and I do notice it in Ireland today as well. With like, there is an obesity problem there. That it's sort of, our food culture got sort of white in one generation and changed into sort of ready mix kind of quick food. So I think for most Irish people, that's probably an issue they don't.
Yeah, I think that's from what I read, it's also a very common issue, like in the US, like also in the China, also like the population, the country get rich so fast, and then the industrialized food took over the traditional food, and I think right now there's lots of debate in the nutritional field, but in general, the more plants, vegetables, and unprocessed food you have, the better. Personally, I eat vegan food. But on the other hand, I do believe, of course, if you switch from pasta and tomato sauce or pizza, this kind of junks, and then move to fish, eggs, like vegetables, and avocado, it's like in general, it's less processed, more wholesome food, and with more diversity. For sure, you'll feel better.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like, as in, I like idiot rules, you know. I like simple things that I can kind of, you know, I don't have to learn all the systems. So the 2 rules I kind of stick to is eating the thing. You know, if you got the thing, there's only so much they could do to the thing. They probably still fucked up your thing, you know. They probably inject some shit into your apple, but you know, but it's like, there's only, I mean, there's only so much they could have done, you know. Once you have it in plastic, you know, they've multiple layers of preservatives and shit like that, you know.
The less processed, the better.
The less processed, the better. And eat the rainbow was the other rule that I got from that book, was you should have a little of every color, you know, because they're all doing something different for your brain.
Yes. And over the years, how may I ask, how old are you?
36.
So there's more than 20 years in between. Have you tried counseling, therapy, or?
Did I ever try it? I don't think I ever did. Did I ever talk to anybody? No, I didn't. No, I'm not against it, but I guess, again, I don't know. Is it my nature or something? I'm very like, I'll analyze it myself. You know, I'll get the information myself. I'm also, I guess, I'm not wholly, like, as in it, from what I gather from the psychological area, or therapy, it is useful, but you got to find the right person, you know, as in, like, there are a lot of not as good as guys out there.
Yeah.
So I guess what was sort of made me reluctant was, what are the odds I'm going to run into, or how long would it take to find someone who's like, as in, I think there's a lot of psychological theory that I don't really agree with, or as a practice, and there's some that I do, but you know, you'd have to know the background of the person, and if by the sounds of it, it's not that easy to track them down here either.
Yeah.
So I'm not against it, but then again, these days I suppose I'm a little better. You know, I don't deal with it in the same way. It's not as large a looming a problem. It's more something I have to maintain.
Yeah, I I want to share a story. Like 2-3 years ago, I had a flatmate, and when he come to my flat to interview, he was charming. He looks nice, and I pick him. And then we went to the agency to sign the contract. And as soon as we signed the contract, like he started to talk in a strange way, and he lashed out on me. And then in the next follow 1 year, we talked 3 times. And each time, maybe like after 2 minutes, he started to be angry for something I don't understand.
He was living here for a year, and you only talked 3 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
And it's just very almost impossible to have a conversation. And he just locks himself in the room the whole time. And every time after he does laundry for 1 year, he lives there, he has no hunger. So every time after he does laundry, he just put the wet clothes, a pile of them on top of them, like a washing machine, and a few of them like throw it on the window, and that's how he dries it.
Wow.
And for 365 days we live together, all he eats every day is 1 kilo of spaghetti, boil it, then put salt on top of it, then like squeeze half tube of tomatoes paste on top of that, and every day that's all he eats.
Wow.
Like salt, spaghetti, and tomato paste, not tomato sauce, tomato paste. And the last day before I moved out, I had to put my moving box to block the door because I was really afraid one last night he'll kill me.
Jesus.
And
it's a reasonable assumption in that
yeah,
scenario.
you know what's the funniest part? After he left, on the last day we need to check out with the agency, but we just couldn't find him. And I keep calling him, he just don't pick up. And then eventually the agent came. She told me that guy went to the agent, dropped the key without telling me and other flatmate, and he requires the agent to give all the deposit to him. And then
Did they?
They didn't. And then so we check it out without him. And after check out, while I check out, the agent asked us to throw everything belong to us out. They don't want you to keep anything in the flat. So we went to his room, realized there's a pile of stuff, and we took it and throw it. And while we throw it, we found out he's like a work ID. And on this ID, he is a trained therapist.
No way.
Yes!
What? Dude.
Yeah, so every time when I'm thinking, I went through therapy for 3 years. It was very helpful. And to be honest, I don't think my therapist is the best because I listen to other people, how they interact with their therapist, what their therapist teach them, recommend their books. I feel, I wish my therapist did that. But on the other hand, even they don't need to be the best. As long as like to talk and to be open and to have some person to observe you, it's good. But every time I think about a therapist, I'm like, like anyone can go to a therapist and end up getting that guy as their therapist. Isn't it a fuck up thing?
Yeah. I mean, Jesus, guy sounds like a psychopath. That's what worries me about the world as well. I guess maybe, you know, that's my current fear is like this. You never know when you run into a psychopath. You know, they're out there. Like there's like they're 3%. You know, and every once in a while you do run into one, and you're like,
I think you run into a lot of them. You are a comedian.
That's true as well, man. Show business, anything show business, I think has a higher number of these people.
No, I think I'm joking. I think like there's a higher percent of people who have mental health issue, but I think psychopaths are unlikely because in order to be on stage, you need to open about what you are thinking and what you are feeling. For most of us.
Well, I think you need to be that if you want to be good on stage. But there's a lot of people on stage who aren't that good, you know. There are a lot of.
Do you like hang out or be friends with people who's not funny?
Yeah.
Really? Okay.
I mean, not many, but.
Which friend are you think not funny?
I want to tell them they're not funny. Come on. Not many. I suppose most of my friends at the moment I hang out with are comedians, but definitely I've spotted some psychopaths in the scene. Or people I suspected. I mean, obviously, you're always like, you know.
Who are they? Can you write the name?
What are you trying to do to me here? But I think it is. I think what it is because show business is it's much sort of more. What am I trying to say? It's more of a Wild West than other kind of industries, you know, that sort of it's going to attract more sharks, you know, it's much, because the problem with a psychopath is eventually they'll fuck up where they are like your guy did, and then they'll have to move on. And it's much easier if you're in a place where your reputation or kind of industry where your reputation won't follow you as much, you know, like if you were a psychopath in a village in Ireland, after about a year, everyone's going to know you're that guy and you're fucking people over. Whereas in show business, I think there's more moving along from scene to scene, and there's less of a, hey, do you know that guy and stuff, you know?
And also, like, it's about attention and, lots of psychopaths, it's all about themselves. And in show business, as comedian, if you can be like that, it's all about you. And I think it fulfills some same type of.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, like, I'm not without narcissism, you know.
But I think if, as a comedian ourselves, we can tell it rather easily. I think if you watch their show and what they talk about, then it's rather like easy to tell. Oh, if it's a person. Like align with my values and I want to hang out. So what I mean is like there could be some people, but for me, my perspective, I can easily avoid them by looking at what they do.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think I've certainly gotten, but again, like I suppose that was sort of a little like, I mean, I've been kind of reading psychology as I've gone along, and I started to read about those personality, like they call them the B cluster types, and you can kind of start, once you know what to look for, it kind of becomes quite obvious, you know, you spot certain red flags and you're like, oh, okay, that's not normal, like what they're doing there. And I think with comedy, it's not as apparent because I mean there are tricks and there are standard jokes and stuff that some, you know, you can just be good at that technique of joking and that's what you do, you know.
Yeah.
But I guess usually an indicator is if someone's show is almost inherently superficial.
Yeah.
You know, you're like, all right, well, they might not be a psychopath, but they're probably not the type of person I want to hang out.
I have a few names almost. Shout out.
Well, you want to say the names?
Yeah. But my show is definitely not superficial.
I must get down to see your show. Yeah, I've heard it's quite an unusual type of thing. Yeah, your hour. It's sort of very.
So it's 1 hour. I'm doing it. It's not pure stand up. So it's the backbone is a story, and then around this story I have like a stand up material. So there's a narrative in it. Do you know Rick Reinoid?
No.
So I got inspired by him. His show is called Owning the Truth is Funny. So he had a really tragic childhood, and he became like a professional comedian in the US, and then he got really really depressed. So he took some time of comedy. Then while this 1 year relaxed, he made lots of breakthrough, epiphany around his mental health and how to see it from different perspective. And he realized that he got tired from comedy because he lies so much on stage. Nothing he says is true. So he made this challenge that he will write a solo, tell his story, and everything in in this show 1 hour, there's not even one lie. Everything he says is true. And so this show, he talk about his childhood, like lots of violence and lots of trauma and his insecurity and his self-hating, depression, and all those things, and how he eventually his life has changed and he has become better. So it really, really inspired me a lot. And then the other show is, do you know My Girlfriend's Boyfriend by Mike B. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. So he has like 3 specials on Netflix. Most of his shows are like less like on the edge of stand-up, but more like a one-man show. So all of his special I watched so far is like part of his life journey. Like for example, this My Girlfriend's Boyfriend is talking about his insecurity, how he grew up of not getting attention and being rejected by women and feeling not attractive, and eventually meet this and how he was so low self-esteem that he ended up in the situation that dating women who has boyfriend and hide him, and then he eventually has to when he was hanging out with his girlfriend, end up the actual boyfriend come along and they need to pretend there's nothing to do. So this is like a part of his trauma. And then he eventually meet a gorgeous woman, they fall in love, then somehow they fall into similar situation, and eventually how they made it like deal with these issues, and so it's a lot about his like weakness, how to say, like those secret things you wouldn't admit to people. Oh yeah, I was so insecure, I had such low esteem, but telling in a way still make it funny and make people realize, oh, that we all shared some similar problem and can resonate with it. So these 2 specials really, really like inspired me. So my special is the core story of my special is about I grew up in a sweatshop in China, in Wuhan actually, and I experienced lots of discrimination and violence when I grew up, and I talk about lots of the issues I have and how it made me the person I am, and eventually like I collapsed, going through very dark period of my life, and how I suddenly like through life being able to see it from different perspective and make peace with all the misfortune happening in my life, and become stronger out from it. So this is the idea of the show. So it talks a lot about mental health and the trauma. Yeah, this is my solo.
Yeah, that sounds cool. And so let me ask you this: so how do you think comedy has sort of helped you work through that specifically?
I think comedy really changed me. I kind of feel, like I think you were in 2018. I came out. 2017, winter of 2017. I was severely depressed, like suicidally depressed. And the beginning of 2018, I was really, really bad also. But in spring 2018, I started to take medication, and that helped me a little bit. I got out. So when you take a medication, you get a kind of like glory, like a little bit almost how do you say, manic phase. And during this phase, I was on a Tinder date. We decided to watch a comedy show that was at the Last Stand, and I think you were the comedian on stage that night.
Okay.
And I was sitting in the front row.
Yeah, I remember you were wearing this really blue dress, wasn't it? That was your first. Was that your first?
That's
night?
my first performance. But I remember 2 weeks before that. I remember you were on stage.
Oh, okay.
Maybe I remember it wrong, but I really, because I don't know what is stand up. I didn't know this art form at all. And then I went. I had some idea, but it's all this stereotypical American shows. Oh, it's awkward, like weird. And then I went to, I remember you. I'm not sure if I remember it correctly, but you were on stage, and you were funny, and I was having a good time, and I keep wanting to shout to you. And later I realized I was a heckler. Like I just feel, oh, this is so interesting. I wish I can be there talking.
Wow.
And then 2 weeks later, I went back to Last Stand, did my first set. And for me, like comedy really changed everything for me, because I grew up like we are in a very disadvantaged single parent home. And my mom, since I was like 3-4 years old, my mom, she's handicapped, and she got rejected from university because of her disability. So she was like top student, really brilliant, and her dream, like growing up in a really poor family without any resources, her dream was really become an accountant, because that's something you don't need any connections, or it's a hard skill, and if you can do accounting, you can find a job.
Right.
So it's not like some like painting or whatever. So she really dreamed to be an accountant and change her life. And then when she couldn't do it, she kept telling me I should study accounting. So since I was like 3 years old, she's like, you are an accountant, you are an accountant, you are an accountant. Yeah. That is who you are, and you are. Wow. That's who you are. And then
it's teachers in Ireland. The teacher is like the good, respectable, achievable job. So they're always like, you sure? Even my mom is like, you sure you don't want to be a teacher?
Yeah, I think teacher is a respectful career, but what if you hate children?
Our numbers, yeah. Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's just, I think I think in every work, like lower class or working class culture, there's like the job they think becomes the job that gets you out, you know? Yeah. I think in Ireland it was like teaching, or you could be a priest.
but priests cannot have sex.
There's I'm not saying there's no downsides, but they have a reasonable, respectable income, and they have a position in society. You know.
Okay. Wow, that's a lot to give up.
Dude, isn't it? Yeah. I was never into being a priest. Just want to clear that now.
So that was me, and I went into business school. I wasn't even good at that, and I just feel like for the first 28 years of my life, I just accept that I'm mediocre. Like I'm not unique. Like I have no talents. I just never feel like I am me. I don't know who I am, but I just know I don't like who I am. I was keep pretending someone else, but I wasn't even good at that. And I just feel like at that time, my identity is really about my job. Like, I have 2 degrees. I get this really high-paying job at this company, and that's who I am. But in reality, I wasn't even good at my job, and I didn't even like it. So I had lots of I just didn't like myself, and there was lots of self-hatred, and then I found out comedy, and as soon as I do it, like many people, like when they do comedy, after a while they get funny, but I think even my first night I was funny, and then it just gave me so much energy and so much power to realize, actually I'm not who I think I am. And a few days ago, I saw like Facebook reminded me, like I post some like a story like 3-4 years ago, and I was writing. I said, I won the Berlin New Stand Up Award after 6 months doing comedy, and I wrote. I said, this is the best decision in my life. I realized if I can teach myself comedy, like in English, without any background knowledge, I can teach myself anything. And that's the mindset since then, because like I just never had confidence in myself. I never believed in myself, and everyone tell me I'm not good, and I keep getting this rejection from everywhere. And then suddenly I realized, oh, what people think about me was wrong. What I thought about me was wrong. There's more of myself than I realized, and this just gives me so much power and self-confidence. And then I start to do comedy more, and also like use comedy to do mental health project, and then this project and the Berlin Mental Health Festival. I just feel, oh, I feel like comedy really changed my life.
Wow.
And how about you?
Yeah, I mean, similar and different, I suppose. I had always see. I think, especially when I was struggling in secondary school with like depression and social circles, actually, that was sort of the moment I started to try to be funny. I still remember the first time I was funny in public, which was at in metalwork in secondary school. I think in like second year, and the guys.
So
were,
you were like 14.
I was like 14, I think, maybe 13 or 14, and the guys were fucking with me, and they were putting all the goggles like on top of my head, like I had about 4 of these stuck on my face. And there was just a moment where they'd been like doing that, and the metalwork teacher, Mr. Crimin, was just like, "What the fuck?" Just I'm left there staring, just like with 3 of things, and I just in the pause. I remember the pause, and I remember just thinking, "Safety first, sir," you know. And it just got this big laugh in the room, and it was the first moment where I was like, "Oh, this is a thing I can do. This is a way I can be seen. You know, this is a way I can have a reputation or be cool enough for other friend groups, you know." And from then on, I think I was often acting out in class just to get the laugh. I was kind of the class clown. And then people were kind of like, you know, friends would have said, because stand-up is a known thing in Ireland, they were like, you should try stand-up. But I was like always, well, a little too afraid, and also it's not, again,
And how old were you by now?
By then, I mean, as I went along, like, I think by when people started to say maybe you should try it, I was around 16 or 17, or maybe getting to 18. But I still, like, very low on confidence, like. And and also, like, in Ireland, it's not really an easy road to any kind of show business, dramatic type of thing, any kind of drama. There's no drama class. There's no real, if you're in the countryside, there's not a local thing. We had like a pantomime where you just do it for kids, like, you know. That was the most showbiz thing nearby. So it was years later, actually, that a friend, when I was working in a call center, a friend of mine was like, "You're funny. I'm gonna get you into the club here." There was like one club in Cork, and I went down there. I did 2 sets. They went really well. But then I had like an argument with the guy who ran the place, because apparently everybody has arguments with him. And then that was kind of the end of my time, and there was no other place to go. So it wasn't until I got here, and and it was interesting, is I was struggling with depression just before, because I'd broken up with my girlfriend. I moved abroad, like we'd moved together and then we'd broken up, and I was kind of at a, what am I doing here? You know, and I'd lost the funding on a PhD I was studying.
What? You are smart?
Not proper smart, but
What PhD were you doing?
I was doing I did a master's, like I did a degree and a master's in philosophy, and I was going to do the PhD.
So you were on the way to become a like doctor, academic, and then you become a comedian.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Wow.
But not a real academic. Like philosophy is like, it's like there's a lot of philosophy PhDs out there who are not professors, you know, like, as in, it was kind of, I hoped to be a professor, but that's such a small number of jobs for, you know. So I was more just, I don't know, I was doing what came next and what interested me. But because when the kind of the economy collapsed in 2008 in Ireland and everywhere, they cut a lot of fundings, and I lost the funding for that. I was getting a state grant at the time, and then I didn't get it anymore. So I was at a loss, and then I went to Germany with a girlfriend that we had a very bad relationship, and we broke up. and I was kind of like, what the hell am I doing here? And I was just doing odd jobs, and where's it going? You know, I was 30 at that time, so it's kind of an age where you're like, what's up, like. And then I just looked up. I don't know, did I look up comedy or someone pushed me to look up comedy? And I found that like there was just these Facebook groups, and all you had to do was sign up, you know.
Yeah.
And I think for me that was why I could do it here. Is like there was no kissing ass and getting to know one guy, which I hate doing. I just never. It's like, again, it's part of my self-esteem and my part of my. You know, I don't like to talk to people like that, you know, with an agenda, whatever. So the fact that it was just open and almost democratic, like, you know, sign up enough times and you're getting on, and if you get on and you do well, then we'll get you on again, you know. So
what's your first mic?
The first one I did was Adorable Idiots.
Wow.
In the old room, like.
Wow, so Zach started you.
Yeah, first time with Zach. I think, yeah, Zach, Adorable Idiots, and then the next one I did was Cosmic.
Oh.
And from me as well, like, I mean, comedy has been more of a direction than I ever had, you know, like, as in, I love it, and it's so interesting, you know, it's so challenging, that in a way that, like, I think a lot of my depressions came from dead-end jobs that I felt, this is not pushing me, you know, this is not, I think my mind can do more, and I need it to do more, you know?
I don't know about you, but I kind of feel like with me, I feel it's just, I never had a purpose in life. I never had a passion. And then it's like black and like, it's like a growing picture. Before comedy kick in, then everything become colorful.
Wow. I had, like, as in, I think I've had 3, I think we might call them obsessions. My first was, and I guess this was a part of, I remember I said, like, as when I started studying kendo, I became obsessed with it. I started in Ireland, and I went to Barcelona for a job, and I just started training it every day. I was training 6 days a week for 2 years straight.
Wow.
I was on the Irish team, and we went to like world championships and stuff. And
wow.
so it was like I was just consumed with it, like, and it was its whole little world as well. You know, there was like this little underground world, and all these really great teachers you could get next to. So that obsessed me for a long time. It's still like, I mean, I haven't trained in about a year or two, but I mean, it'll always be with me. And then I guess philosophy kind of grabbed me as well. I was like, oh my God, because I'd kind of started meaning to do writing, but then just philosophy became the more fascinating thing. But then that kind of hit the end of the road as well with the loss of the funding. And then when I got into comedy as well, I thought, in a sense, it was a blend of those two learning curves, because I do think that in a sense, comedy is applied philosophy, you know.
Of course.
What we're doing is taking apart things that people look at normally and sort of rearranging them in a new way.
Yeah.
And I think kendo as well, like, comedy is more like fighting than something else, in the sense of, like, it's very like, you got to be sharp. You're on the edge up there. You can lose it at any second. You know, one little, you say it the wrong way, and it's boom, falling apart. And it's that sort of, I think, thrill of it, you know, that it's a big part of, like, always wanting to get up there again, you know.
And with your comedy, do you is it more philosophical? Do you use the knowledge from your previous life?
Like, as in, I think generally speaking, people have complained that my stuff is very long and long-winded and not very, like, jokey, because I guess I'm more fascinated about exploring an idea than just telling a joke, you know. And I do run a show called Wise Fools, where it's sort of like I get 2 comedians and we look at some kind of old philosophical problem. Because I always find it's actually, I think what the show is really is sort of, it's a little like a philosophy seminar, but like for lay people, you know, because you're not having to deal with academics talking academic language. But actually what we find, and it's fairly interactive, is people love that. People do want to get into philosophical ideas. Everybody wants to sort of engage with it a little, but you just don't really get a chance. And I think that is part of why stand-up comedy is philosophy. It's the closest people get to you know, what used to be the old way to do philosophy. Like, if Socrates was walking around, he's just walking around to people's houses and shooting the shit. Same as, like, you know, you might go down and listen to a comedian.
And with your comedy, have you touched the topic of depression yet?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because I guess it's always, yeah, I have like a bit about sleep and how sleep is the best thing in life,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I mean, I always get nods from that, but that certainly kind of springs from the time when, depression periods where you don't want to get out of bed. Sleep is the only joy you get. It's
No, when you are depressed, you lie in bed, but you don't actually sleep.
I mean, but the times that you sleep
Yeah.
are all like your bamminess.
Yeah, yeah.
They're sort of your one relief
Mm-hmm.
from what's going on, and then even like beyond just depression, but I guess stress. Just
Mm-hmm.
difficult times in life. I've always been like I don't want to fucking I don't like as in it's always been a struggle of mine to have to get out of bed and deal with the world.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sleep is just such a nicer, warmer, cozier option.
Do you still have issues with sleeping?
Not so much anymore. I guess the thing of it was as well, it seems fairly clear to me now I'm a night person,
Mm-hmm.
and school was a day activity.
Yeah.
But like I mean my all my work styles now are attuned to a late night
Mm-hmm.
kind of um thing. So, and I guess that's a big one as well. Is like, yeah, I think I got a bit better with my sleep. I think that helped with the depression because I think sleep is a massive one for
Yeah,
depression.
sleep is the building stone. Have you read the book called Why We Sleep by Michael Walker?
I think I heard of that one. I haven't read it yet though. No.
It's really a great book. Also, it mentioned about this sleep discrimination, because the academic like school system is built for early risers, but genetically there's just people who are not early risers, and it's very unfair for them. And he talks about the probably like human race evolve in a way that people have different preference, because if all the
Keep a
people
watch.
to keep the tribe watched. So instead of 8 hours everyone sleep, they only have like 4 hours unattended. So he talks about like those people whose late risers can get discriminated and lose a huge advantage over the sleep schedule.
Yep.
And how important it does to your mind when you are sleeping. Your mind is brain is not like not working. Actually, it's just detoxing from all the toxic protein you generate during the day, and shifting the short-term memories into long-term memories, and reprocess lots of emotions. And when you dream, you experience the emotions and eventually make peace with it. Because with emotions is that there's one is that you can feel you can understand the emotion, but the other way is that every time when you think about that event, you feel it as it's happening now, and that's not healthy. So what sleep does is that I don't know the exact process, but it helps you to make this connection. Like for example, when your dad died many years ago, when you think about this event, you probably will be like shaking and have lots of physical reaction. But many years later, through many nights of sleeping, your brain start to put it in the emotions where it should be, and you now you understand it's something you still can feel sad, but it's not as intense as like let's say 10 years ago. And that's what sleep do us, and it's really
Wow.
it's probably the most effective and efficient antidepressant.
Yeah, I think that is like I think maybe it might have been the same guy I was listening to talking on to Sam Harris about it on his podcast. But yeah, I think he was pointing out the links between things like Alzheimer's and not sleeping, because it's basically it's fixing your brain basically as you sleep. And yeah, I think I'm much more insistent on getting my 8 hours these days, like so.
And now if you if you have a day just don't feel so good, what do you do?
I mean, I guess, yeah, I think that's the point. I was thinking of what I would say about it before I came down, but I think there's an important value to feeling some kind of control over your own mental state, you know? And I think the biggest problem I had was the feeling of helplessness, that you're stuck in. It's actually like, it's a thing as well you say to someone who might be having a bad trip on something like LSD, is you remind them that this is temporary.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that it will pass is its own kind of reassurance. So you know that you're okay, kind of. And I think what I realized later was, you know, the more tools you build up to combat it, the more steps you have to take, the more in charge you feel, you know. So it's sort of, in a sense, I kind of got to the stage where I was able to say, well, I'm a kind of as depressed as I want to be, in the sense that, like, if I'm now having a bad day, I know if I take a run, I don't see if any, like, I find it impossible that after a run you're not in an elevated sense of mood, you know, that the amount that.
But it's hard to get to run.
This is it. I mean, that's the thing. But I guess the more you start to build a relationship where you know that is the fix. You know, if you're feeling shitty, if you ran for, and I don't run for a lot. Like, basically I run until I go, I don't like it anymore. And then I come back. I don't really have a set distance that I run. But it's always, I've never had it not work, you know, like, as in your of course, your endorphins are coursing through your body. Meditation as well is another kind of, look, I know I'm going to feel better anyway after 15 minutes, and it doesn't cost that much to do it. It's probably just trying to eat something well. I cold showers as well. I'm massive into cold showers as well.
What's that?
I take cold showers in the morning.
Oh, wow.
Do you know the Wim Hof method?
No.
It's like a breathing technique. It's sort of a exhalation and then hold, and then it's like 3 rounds of that, and then you take a cold shower. His thing is like cold showers in the morning. There's a lot of health benefits from it, but it's very antidepressant as well, like, you know, because basically it's sort of it's the same thing. It's called an autonomic reaction, I think. It's the same thing as exercise, where basically you put your body through a challenge to sort of get certain systems to activate. And so yeah, since I started doing the cold showers, really, if I am feeling down or sluggish now, automatically I'm like, all right, I'll take a cold shower, or I'll take a run, or I'll meditate, and one of those is gonna fix it, or 2 of those together is gonna fix it, you know. So for me, mental state now it's a maintenance task, you know. It's, you keep on top of it, you keep your techniques going,
and I totally agree. It's a maintenance. Like, I had the misconception before. I thought depression is something I recovered from, and it's good.
It's gone,
and then later I realized, oh, there's still so much work I need to do every day. And if I don't do them, I will slip back
to spiral down. Yeah, that's what I noticed, the pattern. Like, there's a little, it just slowly, you know, and then after a month or so you're.
And do you have like a spiral down in the past period?
I mean, Corona was a dark time for me. The lockdowns, like, you know, I struggled with that. Just the isolation and the uncertainty, you know. I mean, yeah, that was that. I mean, I was drinking way more, and you know, that obviously, yeah. So I think that was probably during Corona was my last spiral.
What's your relationship with alcohol now?
It's better-ish, I suppose. It's like, it's tricky when you're a comedian, because you get paid in drinks a lot, you know, and you're always around it. Like, but it has started to look more to me that when you notice with older comedians, famous comedians' stories, they seem to be breaking into 2 categories. There's like the guys who went teetotal, or the guys who are still full, I get fucked up all the time type of drinkers, you know. And usually it's the teetotalers, like, who seem to be getting.
What's teetotal means?
It means you just quit altogether. Like Jimmy Carr just decided one day he was going to quit. Nikki Glaser as well. I think, I mean, a few of the other ones as well. What's his name? Theo Von, whatever.
The Australian guy, what's his name?
The Jim Jeffries, is it?
Yeah, he's for sure an alcoholic.
Yeah, and he's kind of the other side of it. Like, then it's like still hammering, but like, so I think it's sort of, it's so always ever present, and because I like to drink, that it's kind of I kind of have to be. I'm not like one and I'll just go home now. It's either sort of. I'm also sort of, I guess, a pure Irish drinker in the sense of like, if I'm drinking, I'm drinking.
Are you able to just drink one?
Yeah, I don't. It's not even. I'm able, but I don't see the point. As in, like, one is sort of, I'm nowhere. I'm not happy, and I'll have a hangover in about fucking 20 minutes for this brief little elevation. So I always think, if I'm gonna drink, I'm gonna drink. If I'm not gonna drink, I just won't drink.
Okay. Are you able to not drink?
Yeah, I mean, I'm getting better at it anyway. There was a few, maybe last year it was harder to do, but yeah, this year I've noticed it's easier. Like I'm drinking. I usually pick a day maybe where I'll drink, and sometimes I won't even do it.
Okay, at least you have control.
Yeah, I mean, it's probably an area where there are risks for me, I think. But I guess again, it's a constant maintenance thing.
Is alcohol your favorite drug?
No.
What's your favorite drug?
LSD is my favorite drug. Actually.
Oh, you cannot do that every day. But with LSD,
which I think is a good thing. It has a natural. You can't fucking go on it all day every day.
Yeah, and with LSD, afterwards, do you have period that you just don't want to drink?
Yeah, I found it, and I mean, I guess this is sort of like LSD is a curious area for therapy these days as well, or all the hallucinogenics, But I do find that I have a longer period of like, I don't have the same temptation, like even a week or two, where it's like, it does something. So there's sort of a bit of a reset to it for me.
Cool. So thank you so much for talking about your journey. And I have my last question. So I would like to know if you can recommend 3 comedy specials. What are your top 3?
Oh, wow. I mean, I guess anything Louis C.K. I still think he's the best. And the reason I was going to bring him up is like, he does seem to. He's always someone I would watch, and I'm shocked by the level of honesty about himself that he's able to get to. It actually intimidates me because, I do think comedy good comedy should be a process of learning to be more vulnerable and get but it's like, I mean, I watch him and I'm like, I could never be that, like, look at me and my disgustingness and in all my weaknesses. So I guess any of those. I guess a lot of people out here know Tommy Tiernan, but he's probably one of our best comedians. Definitely is one of our best Irish comedians. So he had 2, Cracked and Tommy Tiernan Live, I think.
Where can I find the special?
I think actually they're probably on YouTube, or at least a lot of them are. But other than that,
how to pronounce how to spell his last name?
Tiernan. Tiernan.
Okay, I will check him out. And the third one?
I mean, for me, like, and I not everybody loves him, but I really like Ricky Gervais' specials because I find, and he studied philosophy as well, and I enjoy he's got like his Nietzsche bit. I really think is one of my favorite philosophically based bits. But I really loved his first 2 as well, Politics and I forget what the second one was called. Humans, maybe. But anyway, the first 2 specials that he did, I thought they were really great. He's just very excellent writing style, especially for someone who just came in to stand up, like, just and then I started doing it kind of thing.
Cool. Thank you so much. This
thank
is
you very much
it.
for having me.
For the audience out there, if you don't know yet, now I have a Patreon account. So for as little as €3.50 per month, you can support my work on mental health. By the way, the €3.50 is to buy me a falafel sandwich, and I realize now falafel is €5.
Oh well, then donate twice, people.
Yeah, inflation.
Money needs falafel. It's a matter of life and death.
And in case you are located in UK or Scotland, so end of May I'm going to Brighton Fringe to perform my solo, and in August I will be performing the whole month in Edinburgh Festival with my solo show Child from Wuhan, and also my mental health project called Depression versus Anxiety, a comedy game show. So if you are interested, please check it out, and bye bye.
Bye bye.